see what an ASB teen has to say about this. I've included some of what she said back in her elementary school because I want you to see what she was already feeling about herself before she even got to middle school. There was a lot to overcome prior to middle school, and as you watch this first vignette that's about to play, it'll be easy for you to say, wow, look how well she communicates. She articulates so well. Are you sure she has Asperger's? But I want you to take a look at her eye contact, her fidgeting, her sensory issues. Just whenever she talks about a sensory issue, watch how she struggles thinking about the sensory issue. Her opinions, how she comes to conclusions. Think about how a neurotypical teenage girl would think about her opinion of shopping and makeup and how girls talk to each other. Listen to how many times that she uses a sensory word, that something is too. Remember, Aspies want to be social, but the sensory issues and the anxiety are sometimes enemies that turn against them and get in the way of their social success. As I have edited these videos and heard them many times, I was even taken aback at how many times the word "to" was spoken. So, in a moment, we're going to hear from Sydney. We'll be back in a moment. Well, today I thought instead of just hearing from me what it's like to have Asperger's and be a girl, it would be better to hear from a girl herself. So this is Sydney Holmes. Sydney, how old are you?
14.
And what grade are you going into in the fall?
I will be a sophomore.
Be a sophomore, okay. Let's talk a little bit about elementary school, middle school, and high school. What do you remember about some frustrations or challenges in elementary school?
The teacher never explained anything enough. They would just be like, oh, it's simple, just read the directions. But sometimes the directions didn't, they were just like sugarcoating it, and they weren't exactly, like the directions didn't explain anything. And then the teachers never explained anything, and I got frustrated.
So sometimes if you would ask for help or another explanation, what did the teacher sometimes think you were doing?
They thought that I was just trying to get out of my work and like trying to postpone doing it, but I honestly had no idea what I was doing.
So if they felt like you were trying to get out of your work versus asking for more explanation, how did they usually treat you or respond to you when you did that?
They just told me to do it, and they just said, hey, do it. Read the directions, it explains everything. And in my head I'm going, no, it doesn't.
So you asked for help and then would be told, just do it, it's simple explanation. You were feeling frustrated, they would give you the paper back or the work back, and then what was the usual response?
I flipped out.
Just explain some of the things you did when you flipped out in elementary school.
I threw pencils, or desk, or chairs, or hit, or kicked, or bit.
Did
or
you ever
punched.
have any time where you ran out of the classroom?
Ooh, yeah, that was frequently.
Frequently. So you've had a lot of different experiences in elementary school. You've had a shadow, you've been in mainstream, you've been in a special education class for autism, you've been in a special education class for BEH or BED kids. What do you remember about the autism class, since you have Asperger's and you were considered high functioning and kind of a genius level IQ? What was it like to be in an autism only class?
I didn't like it, because they gave me, like, my warm-up was basically, I had to take, there's this sheet, it had the numbers 1 to 100, it was my warm-up, or 100 to 200, it was some form of 100, and I had to, my warm-up was I had to color the multiples of a certain number, like they were like little squares, like graph paper. That was my warm-up. That was essentially my day when I was in there, and I'm just like, no, I cannot do this, I need out of here.
Did that feel like that was too easy or beneath you or at your grade level?
That was beneath me and too easy.
So although the classroom could better understand your behaviors and your meltdown,
the schoolwork was frustrating and some of the other children on the other end of the spectrum had trouble feeding themselves and going to the bathroom. And did you have trouble with any of those?
No.
So they didn't keep you in there very long. They figured out that that was not the best placement. So they sent you into a mainstream with a shadow, Miss Kim. Now, what was that like, having a shadow?
Whenever I needed help, she always explained things a little bit more, and that was helpful. But then there were some times where I just needed personal space, and she would not go away.
So then when you need personal space and someone give you personal space, how do you feel?
I feel like I'm being closed in. I'm always being watched, and I don't like it. It feels creepy.
When you feel creepy and you're feeling anxious, what sometimes would happen after you feel creepy and anxious?
I start fiddling, like I'm doing now, because I don't want to be here right now. I would ask Miss Kim if I was allowed to take a walk, or if she said no, I'd just run out of the classroom anyway, because I needed to get away from her.
If you were thinking your best grade that you remember, kindergarten through 5th grade, what was the best grade?
5th grade.
What was good about 5th grade?
We moved, and I got to start over.
You weren't exactly thrilled with moving and transitioning to a new state and a new house and all of that. So what made the new school in Georgia make you like that as your best grade?
It's the only school that I didn't get expelled.
Sydney's history is kindergarten through 3rd grade was expelled or transferred from different schools. In 4th grade was homeschooled, and 5th grade is the year that we moved to Georgia because of better understanding of Asperger's specifically. So in 5th grade, you did not get expelled. What was another really good thing that happened in 5th grade?
I met my best friend.
Met a best friend, so you had a best friend for the first time. And what about your 5th grade teacher? What would you say made her, even though she didn't really know anything about autism or Asperger's, what made you feel comfortable and safe around her?
She did her best to try to understand, and she always explained things to where, like, she would always explain until I got it, and she would give me personal space.
So even though she knew nothing about autism, you just maybe felt like she respected you and would help you when you needed help? Now, in elementary school, there were 2 times you got to be in a trailer or a learning cottage. Tell me how that's difficult for someone with Asperger's to be in a learning cottage or a trailer.
There's absolutely no personal space in there.
And what do you do when you don't have personal space?
I get a little cranky because I don't want to be touched.
What about the sounds and other sensory issues being in a trailer except for being in the classroom? What are other things that are kind of annoying?
Whenever people would walk by, you could hear their conversation. You could always hear the lawnmower, and that was annoying.
So when you're trying to concentrate in the trailer and you're already feeling like there's not personal space and you're feeling a little anxious and there's a lawnmower outside and people are conversing outside the window, is that something that helps you focus in the classroom? When your sensory issues are going cuckoo inside, what is your brain kind of telling you to do?
Run.
As you can tell, Sydney had quite the difficulties and challenge in elementary school. She had multiple meltdowns. She was seen as too aggressive at school. She would be looking to the teacher like she was stalling or being disobedient or disrespectful. But as she explained to you in her own words, sometimes it was simply that she didn't understand the directions and she didn't want to make a mistake and she didn't want to get in trouble for doing the schoolwork incorrectly. So sometimes instead of asking, because the teacher would say, just read the directions and figure it out, or you're a smart girl, you know how to do this, you're just stalling. Those things would start anxiety, and anxieties usually cause a meltdown.